Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out Nuclear Revenge. Story 1. Site manager neglected to take care of my property, so I cost the property management company over 500k. Some background: I, 35M, own a 72 units apartment complex. When I bought it, it was in a good shape and I spent several million getting all apartments renovated. The rent wasn't increased for any of the tenants and I made sure that it never went up by more than $50 a year for lease renewals, baked into the leases. Shortly after all the renovations were completed, I started the search for a property management company and ultimately settled on one that seemed well aligned with wanting to put the tenants first. As we were doing the contracts, I had my real estate friend also look at them. Between him and my lawyer, they recommended having a clause added in there. The short of it is, if there are any legal actions brought up against me for the apartment complex due to neglect of the property management staff, the property management will be responsible for all those costs and any legal fees incurred. This wasn't added in secret, and the legal team from the property management company agreed and everything was finalized. They took over the management of the complex a month later. I was fairly hands-off and only visited the site every 3 to 4 months. Other than that, I'd have the monthly updates sent to me by the manager on site. A few months ago, I found out that a couple of the apartments had been left in severe shambles after the tenants moved out, and the cleaning crew we had took care of it. I didn't find out until after the fact that it was not completely accurate because one of the apartments apparently had a bad roach infestation in the storage closet outside the apartment. After the new tenants moved into that apartment, they brought up the issue to the site manager. In the monthly reporting, the site manager claimed that maintenance staff tried to address with it traps and bug bombs. I didn't think too much of it and left it at that. Next month, the same thing. And the third month, after receiving the monthly report, I called the site manager stating there is a reoccurring issue and I wanted it taken care of professionally at that point. The month's rent was waived for the tenants in that apartment, and they were put up at a hotel for a week while the issue was to be addressed. Once they returned to their apartment is when the issue started. The site manager, either by mistake or by negligence, didn't communicate with the exterminators the extent or the location of the infestation. Instead of the storage closet, the apartment was fumigated, and after that, the roaches made their way into other apartments in the same building and the nearest building, and the problem got so much worse. The same option was given to all the tenants in that building, waiving the month's rent and putting them up in a hotel for a week while the issue is addressed. They all took that offer up, however one of the tenants decided to take legal action. While I wasn't happy about it, I understood where they were coming from, having their lives disrupted by something that should have been addressed properly to start. As we were midst negotiating with them during mediations, my lawyer reminded me of the clause with the property management company and suggested we give them what they want. That is where I started my nuclear revenge. I had the rest of the tenants from the 2 impacted buildings be suggested to anonymously that one of the tenants had filed a lawsuit for the damage and they should do the same by getting in on it. Through the mediation I pretended to be outraged at the whole matter. The negotiation started at 3 months of free rent, but ultimately we all settled on 1 year of free rent for all those tenants. Overall that came out to 16 apartments with rent averaging from $1,700 monthly that the property management had to pay for due to the negligence of the site manager, equaling to roughly $325,000 in just the lost rent they had to pay for. And the cherry on top, due to the breach in service for property maintenance, they also have to provide free services for up to 6 months while I seek out a new property management company, costing them an additional $146,000, and still pay for the legal fees on top of that. TLDR, site manager screwed with my tenants' homes, so I cost the property management company over $500,000 in damages, lost rent, and legal fees. Story 2. 4th cake day of our nuclear revenge. Hello Reddit. It has been 4 years since this subreddit r/nuclearrevenge was born. Despite seeing some ups and downs and long periods of post-droughts, there certainly were interesting moments that I plan to share with y'all. 3rd cake day of r/nuclearrevenge, November 27, 2021. As it says on the tin, lads. The 3-year anniversary of the sub had come in, and thus I produced this post to celebrate it. Despite the fact it got much less traction and had much less events than usual, it was a neat moment and I got a gold award. Anyways. Voting Story of the Year, December 31st, 2021. At the eve of 2022, a third vote for Story of the Year was held. This time around, instead of having the best story of every month, the choices were between the top 5 posts through the whole year. And 3 days later. Story of 2021, January 3, 2022. This unrivaled masterpiece was voted the Story of 2021. Counting 8 different parts, 2 separate posts and hundreds of awards, it is a colossus of epic. I swore that I would read it someday and that someday is still in the future. I'll read it sometime during Christmas, I swear. Announcement on Bad Stories, May 10, 2022. Our fellow mod u/Claycom6 made a post on a recent trend of posts in which the receiver of the revenge seemed to have an ambiguous end, usually in the form of another friend's hearsay. 400k follower milestone, May 21, 2022. This is so far our longest trek to the next milestone, taking around 2 years, or a year and 2 months for ya pedants. It was a slow and sure road, but at the end we hit 400k. Rejoice! Prohibiting Murder Stories, May 22, 2022. Very creative subtitle, I know. Following a meta post 8 days earlier, Clay asked this community if we should prohibit murder stories. The overall consensus seemed to be that such stories were either fake, uninteresting, or did not fit the spirit of nuclear revenge. Prohibiting Revenge Porn Stories, September 14, 2022. As it says on the tin. Clay decided to ban revenge porn stories, though it is more of a de facto thing as it isn't anywhere in the rule list just yet. Also worth mentioning is the revenge porn story that preceded this, which was such an unholy abomination of a deranged fantasy story that I need to summarize it here. OP is a teacher who has a troublesome student who leaves then comes back, pretending to be kind. That student confesses her crush to OP who rejects her. Later on, the OP gets fired and ostracized because that student sent porn of herself to OP, and OP also gets prison time. Years later, OP is at a bar and sees the student bragging about what she did. This infuriates OP to the point that he films her bragging for weeks, before sending the recordings to all of her relatives and puts it on a porn site. The student gets arrested, shunned, ostracized, etc., while OP gets everything back and a reputation as a badass. Yet. Good thing we won't be seeing that anymore. Toilet Helmet, October 22 to 29, 2022. Shame I didn't block this out of my memory. So for about a week, there was a user sharing a story in which he had a coworker who pissed him off for reasons unknown, and got revenge by drenching his clothes in piss and feces for months on end. Somehow the coworker never figured it out. As I was unnecessarily charitable, I only deleted the post instead of banning him. But he posted it again. And again, when I finally banned him. And then he reposted it with a 2-year-old sleeper agent alt which I banned too. Then I cried to Clay who set up the automod to instaban the story. And thus the saga ends. 4th Cake Day of r/NuclearRevenge, November 27, 2022. Voila! Now, on to the random statistics and facts. Since the last Cake Day, we gained around 60k members. 21 members were banned for varying reasons. Also 2 of those were the same guy, for the whole Toilet Helmet saga. Between March 4 and April 16, there was a period where we had 0 stories. An improvement from the previous year, I suppose. There was a significant spike in subs during February 28 when we got 2.2k subs in a day. The daily rise in subs has averaged around 150 members a day. And that seems to cover it all. Rather short and uneventful, sure, but of the events that did happen, it was rather interesting. There were good stories and bad stories, period where there were no posts and ones that blew up, and I'm glad you were there to witness it. That's all, and I'll see you next year. U/Petir Labanov. Story 3. Revenge is a dish best served cold. Mine has been cooling for 10 years and counting. I, 40F, have been married to my husband, 44M, for 20 years now. We have 2 kids, 16F and 13M. My husband is what I would consider a high earner by middle class standards. Also, strap in folks, this is going to be long. I've never told anyone, so. TLDR, my husband cheated on me, I dragged the guilting for almost a decade, then ruined his life and chased him out of town. 10 years ago, and by complete coincidence, I found out that my husband has been cheating on me, with men, and that from before we got married. We live in a smallish town in the south of the USA, him coming out as gay will have consequences. I believe that that is the only reason he has not come out to anyone. First, here's how I found out he was cheating on me. He got sloppy, left a credit card bill, for a secret card, in the pocket of a coat. While going through it I found all the telltale signs of infidelity, payments to a hotel in a nearby county, restaurant bills, gifts, flowers, condoms, and lubricant, etc. I started camping outside the hotel on days he told me he would be late, and I saw him bringing different men there. I am very good at compartmentalization and have a great poker face, comes with growing up in an abusive household, so I was able to give myself the time to cool off, and to come up with what I should do. First thing I did was getting an STD panel, since I didn't know how safe he was with his partners. It came out negative. Then I convinced him that we should use condoms, since I was having side effects from the pill. He was okay with it. I had a long think, and I came up to the decision that I was not going to confront him, nor was I going to leave him. He was able to provide me a really good lifestyle, one that I would never be able to afford with my high school diploma, a cleaning lady, a nanny to help with the kids, regular spa days in a country club, a new car every other year, luxury family vacations every year. He was a good dad, a good partner, the cheating aside, and really good in bed. But I was not going to let him have a single guilt-free week in his life. That would be my revenge. I started small, planning great date nights for us, telling him that I felt our relationship has cooled, that I wanted the spark back. Then I would sometimes slip into conversation some tea about a cheating husband, a gasp gay man that has been using his poor wife as a beard, complimenting the only gay couple we know for having the courage of being real men, who were out and proud of themselves. On the other hand, I would praise him as the perfect husband to anyone and everyone, especially if he was in earshot. The amount of guilt gifts I got was astounding. The man was even sending me flowers weekly. It continued the same way for years. I could literally see how much it was weighing on him. Me? Well, my parents were part of a commune with the concept of free love. I was the same. I just considered myself in an open marriage. It seems that cheating is easier to ignore if you are not that big on monogamy in the first place. And my husband was keeping me satisfied, so I felt no need to find a partner of my own. Then 4 years ago, I guess he met the love of his life. He started seeing just the one guy. I was seriously thinking of ending the whole thing, especially since I have started a business by then, and was able to bring in enough money to support myself and my kids, while maintaining my lifestyle. But then he went and introduced his side piece to us. He fucking brought him into our house, introduced him to our kids, and that was enough for me to keep tormenting him. Apparently he was a new friend he made while golfing. He started hinting at moving to another state, one where it would be easier for him to come out. I refused. I told him that my business was here, and I was not going to start over in another state. Also the kids had their friends and extended family here, it would be unfair to uproot them. Then he started trying to start arguments. I guess he wanted us to fight, then for me to ask for a divorce. I just stopped all those arguments in their tracks. I would just agree with whatever he said. He was right, I was wrong. And to make it up to him, How about a nice dinner and some great sex? He hated that. I knew from spying on his phone that having sex with me felt like cheating on his BF, the audacity of this man. I also knew that his BF was pressuring him to leave me almost every day. He was stuck between a rock and a hard place. He started drinking, and when it got too heavy, that was when I decided that enough was enough. I wanted to ruin his life, not his health. Also, I grew up with an alcoholic father, and did not want that for my kids. So I gathered all the evidence of his infidelity over the last 9 years, photos with different men, conversations, his Grindr profile, even though he no longer had one. Everything. Then I hired a divorce attorney, and mailed the evidence to his employer. He has a morality clause in his contract, and adultery breaks it. All his relatives, including parents, as well as our church, I was never big on religion like him. It was like a bomb exploded. He was fired, the congregation turned on him, for cheating, not for being gay, let's keep that straight. I would never allow me kids to be part of a church that discriminated against their father, even if he was not out, his parents wouldn't take him in after I kicked him out, and he was shamed publicly. Gotta love that small town gossip mill. And the cherry on the top? His BF was run out of the town, and he couldn't follow him because he wanted to fight for custody of our kids. Now almost a year later, I am a free woman. I got to keep the house, my car, and my business. He got 75% of the retirement and investments accounts, but he won't be paying alimony. I got full custody, he got visitations. I also got child support. He had to move 6 hours away to find a new job, couldn't put the last job he worked at his whole life as a reference, his relationship with his family is rocky, his reputation in town is ruined, so he can't move back anytime soon, the love of his life left him for good, and my kids only tolerate him because I did my best to shield them, and to tell them that he is still a good father to them. I also made sure to treat him politely, never talked bad about him, and had a lengthy talk about how their father being gay is okay, it's who he is and that it was not his fault. That the only wrong thing he did was hiding it from me. So I guess the results of his cheating was years of guilt followed by a ruined life. Edit, let's make something clear. I am not the good person in this story. We were both bad. I am not here trying to get pats on the back, or to be told that I did well. I know that what I did was messed up. I am here because I wanted to tell someone, and I can't do that IRL. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.